What I found is no matter how much money you make, that doesn't mean you have a healthy relationship with money. And it certainly doesn't mean that your nervous system has capacity to actually feel abundance. But unfortunately, our culture that's so obsessed with more, 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 more tells us that the solution is making more money. But I had this subgroup of women who were making way more than your average, and it still hadn't fixed it. So I was like, we have to go further upstream. Because at the end of the day, we think that a certain amount of money is going to make us feel a certain way. But if we can't feel that way, if we don't have the circuitry in our wiring to feel that way and to access that state of being ahead of time, no amount of money is ever going to make us feel the way we want to feel.
Welcome to Reward, the podcast of The Trust. We are the show specifically for women entrepreneurs who want to build businesses into the multi-million-dollar revenues and beyond, but especially because we know the reward is much greater than that. I'm Allie Brown, and I'm excited to introduce you to these diverse female leaders from a variety of industries, women making huge impact and who are unwilling to settle for the status quo. On the web, visit jointhetrust.org to learn more about our modern community for forward-thinking 7- and 8-figure women entrepreneurs. That's jointhetrust.org. See you there. Now, get ready to enjoy this episode's powerful conversation. Hi, it's great to see you.
It's great to see you too.
We were just having a laugh about these shows and podcasts when, like, if you see one and someone's head is dramatically smaller than the other, it almost looks like a different species. So you're trying to like line up head size, height. Because you were saying sometimes someone will air an interview and you're like, why didn't they tell me I was like cut off or,
Yeah, I know. I'm always like walking towards the computer or walking back to make the proportions fit.
Yeah, or I'm all boob, like they can't see my head. It's just, so I think we're lined up perfectly for those of you enjoying the visual stimulation of this interview, because it's going to be a great one. And we both look really good today. So
It's true, Allie.
it's true. I love every conversation I have with you online and off. And when I was running Glambition Radio, had you on twice, I think, because we got so juicy. And now you're part of the trust, and it's been just such a pleasure having you, and your wisdom and the depth and different perspective you bring to things in the group, especially with a group of like high achievers and very accomplished women. And I'm excited to get juicy today, especially on the topic of money. So tell me where this all started for you.
So the money bit, I was just one of those kids. I imagine you were too, Allie, and I would imagine most of the ladies in the trust were. I started my first business at 7. I was like just into making money. I was like plastering my neighborhood with flyers about my odd jobs business and my pet walking business and my babysitting business. And my sister and I like had a jewelry making business and, whatever. And so I was just into money. I just thought it was cool how you could offer something and then make money. So that's where that part started. And I think it's a very common entrepreneurial thread to just start young. But when my parents got divorced when I was 16, I started to learn about money because my mom was getting herself on the fast track of financial literacy. So even though my mom was wildly successful in her career, she'd been on Oprah 10 times, she had multiple New York Times bestsellers, private practice, keynote speaker all over the world. She had given all financial decisions to my dad. She just was like, oh, well, he's a man. And my dad comes from a family with money. So there was just this assumption that he would just handle everything. And then there she was, the single woman for the first time really in her adult life. And she realized, I need to get it together fast. And I just, for whatever reason, I was in high school, I had this insatiable appetite for reading books on personal finance. And so she and we went to Robert Kiyosaki workshops together. We
Oh my
just like,
gosh.
I was such a nerd.
You're at
You
the
can
Rich Dad Poor
imagine.
Dad
Mhm.
conference. Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
Oh
Like
my gosh.
16 years old.
But
Yeah.
how
Just
sweet to
into
go
it.
together. Like I could
It
see
was
doing
fun.
that with Maddie one day, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was fun. You can totally start your kids early. But I will tell you the part that I was excited about it, but it wasn't real because I wasn't actually paying any of my own expenses. And so when I graduated from college, I had built a network marketing business. So I had enough income that I didn't need to go and get a regular job, but it wasn't like a massive income. And I was living in New York City and it's expensive and I wasn't paying a lot of attention. And I had studied a lot of Catherine Ponder, like the dynamic laws of prosperity, Florence Scovel Shinn, the game of life and how to play it for women, all these amazing, like deep spiritual wealth texts. But I had kind of forgotten about the actual practicals of financial management. So I got myself in a lot of credit card debt. And it was just the classic early 20s, like
Oh
spacing out
yeah.
about money, just not being a
Shopping
grown
at the
up.
Limited. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah. Well, it was Loman's because I lived on 16th and 7th, and my view was literally Loman's
I remember
across the
Loman's.
street.
I remember
Yeah.
shopping. I remember getting a limited credit card, which was the dumbest
Mhm.
thing I ever should have done. I had like 8 pairs
Yeah.
of those black pants with the flare and then like would
Oh
be
my
buying
God.
stuff.
Those
And
pants. Yeah.
20s, it was, yeah, you just you
100%.
get thrown into suddenly managing money and you're an adult and you're like, whoa, it's
Because
a shocker.
no one teaches us, like, okay, this is how money works and this is how to handle it. And, my girls are now 6 and 8, and I'm really actively engaging with them because I had this household with two very different money personalities. My mom was like, oh, the angels will just handle it. And my dad, my dad was like, money is scarce. You have to know the value of a dollar. And he was in constant money stress and a cycle of lack. So my mom was like, in a cycle of abundance, but kind of spaced out. And my dad was hyper vigilant, super stressed out. So I ended up with very mixed messages. And anyway, the long story is that in my mid to late 20s, I finally was like, I got to get it together financially. But all of the personal finance stuff that I was reading it felt really shame based and it felt really like boring and it felt really like I have to be disciplined and I have to be a grown up and I was like, "Bleh, I don't want to do that. Like I want it to be fun. I want it to feel good." So I created a curriculum for myself, and that financial curriculum or, strategies helped me to pay off all my credit card debt in 6 months, double my savings, double my income, and then that methodology became my first book, Money: A Love Story, which was really bringing in the component of love, emotional intelligence, and pleasure and fun into financial management and financial maturity.
Yeah. Where did you get the personal permission to feel you could write a book on that? Like, was there a point that you're like, all right, I've mastered this? Or were you like, I'm sharing my journey and
Oh
I'm
my
sharing
gosh.
it with you? Or we're all in a mess? What was your angle with that? We're all in a mess with this together. Let's fix it. What was the
I
angle?
really I really would like to say that this was thought out, but here's what really happened. What really happened is I left New York City. I sold everything. I bought a Prius and I went on this road trip that I like branded it. It was called the Freedom Tour. And at the time I was focused on growing my direct selling business. So I created this workshop called Women and Wealth, which was designed to be a lead magnet for my network marketing business.
Smart.
But that actually it was smart, it really worked, but it actually sort of took on a life of its own, and then I was blogging along the way, so then by accident, because it was early days, I kind of just built this platform, and then it was, very early days of using Facebook for business and whatever. So and then I was growing my email list, and I was writing, and so what happened is I just got offered to write this book.
Wow.
Not
Wow.
because I had planned on it, but I was going along, sharing my journey, building a community around it. And so it happened by accident. Writing a book was not ever something that I had in mind, particularly
That's
as a
cool though.
goal.
Your the intention around it like attracted the attention that created the book. So
Yeah,
I love that. All right.
it's cool.
Okay. So it started with the book. And
Started with
then,
it.
when did the book come out? That book?
2013.
Okay. Yeah. Oh,
It was
wow.
11
10,
years
oh
ago.
my, yeah, it's
It's
his
like
10th
I'm like a
birthday.
completely different person.
Or yeah, actually not 10th, but well, yeah, no, sorry. It's my kids. They had their, oh my gosh, no, they're going to be 11. They're 10. So, because I was thinking they were born in 2013, it's 2024. All right. I need help lately with like calendar, like time
Hard. I
lapses.
know.
Yeah, there's
Well, but
just,
here's the thing, Allie. In my second book, Do Less, came out, and in that whole book is about reorganizing our relationship to time because the way we treat time is actually inaccurate to how time actually is. Like time doesn't really exist in this linear, in this linear fashion. We've just sort of tried to fit into it to make businesses work and to keep commerce and industrialism going. But the truth is, your experience of time is just far more accurate, which is, the theory of relativity. It's like all time is relative and all time is now, in
so
a
you're like
way.
you're busting us through the matrix in like every category. That's basically what
Totally.
you're doing.
That
Money,
is what my job
time,
is just to like time, money, just blow it all
space,
up. Like, not,
space
yeah,
time continuum. Boom. Like there's just
totally.
different. Okay. I love this. So, where do you want to go with this now? Tell me how this got really
Mm.
juicy for you in the last few years.
Yes. So what happened is, the minute I pushed out my second daughter, Ruby, my husband, Mike, he broke out in this crazy full body rash that got progressively worse and worse and worse. So Ruby's going to turn 8 in a week. Sorry, 6. She's going to turn 6. So this was 6 years ago. And that intense health experience that he was having progressively got worse. By the time she was 6 months old, he had lost 40 pounds in a month and he couldn't stand up for more than like 3 minutes. And he was in such excruciating pain that just like getting through the day was nearly impossible. His skin was just like, it's gross, but he was literally molting. It was like coming off over and over and over again. And so, okay, so there we were. My husband's my business partner. So it was like, okay, not only is my co-parent down for the count, like also my business partner. So, and
And
I
you're
had a
holding the
6 month old
baby.
and I had a three and
Yeah.
a half year old. It was just a lot. And I pushed through it and got through it because I am a woman who comes from a lineage where the matriarch, my mom's mom, her motto was, don't ask for a lighter pack, ask for a stronger back. So God love Granny, Edna Northrup. She was an original. And so
Strong.
what I learned from the women in my family was just to be strong. And like what that meant was to kind of buck up and just get through stuff with our strength. And then Mike in early 2021, it's like early pandemic, we had moved to Miami temporarily because he got sick again. And so this is, 2 years later, 2.5 years later, it came back. And now at this point, we didn't have school for our kids. We were like trying to figure out all the things which we don't need to get into today, but we all know what we were all trying to figure out during those days of the pandemic and the shutdown. And so suddenly we were living in Miami. We're paying for a life in Maine, paying for a life in Miami suddenly, which is one of the most expensive cities in the country. Paying for like all, it was just so much financial pressure all at once. And my husband is down again. And I had a session with our couples therapist who's so brilliant. And David was like, because I was in this loop. And the loop was, and other folks listening will find this loop familiar. And the loop was, if there just was enough money, it would fix this entire scenario. Like it's the if this, then I. So like I desire to relax. I desire to feel calm. I desire for all these things, but I can't let myself do that until I have hit XYZ external,
Yeah.
ladder, guidepost, whatever, right? Carrot. And so David had me close my eyes, my therapist, and he was like, okay, Kate, I want you to imagine that Mike has just come home and he said, babe, I just made $10 million. So you just don't need to do anything now. and you can just do whatever. And David was like, okay, now tell me how you feel inside when that is happening. And our bodies, what's so cool about the body, the nervous system specifically, which we'll get into, is that it has no sense of time. So back to breaking down the time space continuum. Our bodies, everything is happening now, according to our bodies. So it's actually really an effective tool to imagine what things would be like to go inside and feel somatically what's happening inside you. It will tell you the truth. So I go inside and I was shocked by the response. I, of course, expected that I would feel tremendous joy and calm and relaxation. But what actually happened is inside, I felt kind of depressed and like dead inside, and almost like my life force had flatlined.
Really?
Uh huh.
Sorry.
And I know,
I'm not discounting
shocking.
your experience, but I'm like, I don't think I'd feel that way.
Yeah. I didn't think so either. And what this
Wow.
told
Tell me
me,
more.
yeah, what this told me is that, and of course, in conversation with David, I realized like, oh, if I were to, I was using financial pressure and stress as a stimulus to basically like, I was addicted. I was addicted to the
Mm.
constant feeling of financial stress and pressure. And when I projected into a future where it didn't exist, I felt dead. So I was using it as a stimulator to feel alive. And what I now know, having studied this for many years, is that our nervous system develops a set point according to what it felt like in our home in childhood, specifically around
Ooh.
resources. And in
Yeah.
my childhood home, there was a lot of stress and pressure around money. And there was a lot of discord because my parents weren't on the same page.
Yeah.
And so what the nervous system does is it gathers up this energetic information and it kind of tells the story of this is what it means to be alive. And so, no matter what scenario I found myself in, my nervous system, which is largely guiding our unconscious, was continually finding a way to essentially recreate the experience of financial stress and pressure because that was what I knew. And even though it didn't
Wow.
necessarily feel good, it felt like home.
Yeah. That's
And
huge.
so I did an experiment because I was like, my doctor at the time, I'd had all my numbers done, and he said, if you keep operating with this level of stress, you are going to get very sick. And I was like, okay, well, the thing is, my husband is very sick, and we can't have two sick parents. So I need to change the way I'm doing my life. And so I decided to do an experiment. I gave myself 90 days and I said, even though this is a time that feels like tremendous financial stress and pressure, and like I feel like I'm the sole breadwinner and I feel like it's all on my shoulders for 90 days or up to a certain amount of money that I felt comfortable like going, spending beyond what we made because of like going into our savings. I was like, okay, there's a certain amount that I just feel like, okay, that's fine. I can figure it out. And I said, during this time, I am not going to ramp up and go into go mode to make money from the place of stress and pressure that I have always done and like come up with a marketing campaign or you and I are both marketers. Like we can make money anytime we want. It was from this place of like feeling like I needed to clench and ramp up. So I was like 90 days I'm just going to relax even though all evidence points to this is not a good time to relax. And after 90 days came and went, we had hit all our financial goals. I never needed to go into the hole. And I did some really deep, I mean, it continues. This is a journey. It's not like a one and done, but I did some really, really deep rewiring in that
Wow.
time by interrupting the addiction.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's just so huge. There's just so many things you just shared that we could each unpack 10 of those things into a show, each of them. Um, I think first of all, I love that you said, let me do an experiment, right? You didn't make yourself wrong or blame yourself. You just said, let's let's try it on. Let's have some fun. And there was almost a game to it. It became kind of fun, right?
Well,
I w
it was a kind of a game. I mean, there were elements that were fun. I was also terrified, but
Yeah.
what was really helpful about it, because our brains are so active and they want to know. And so it was really helpful just to have like a clear container around it. It wasn't like, I'm going to change my behavior forever. It was
Yeah.
just like, I'm going to change. I can try for 90 days. And then I can
Right.
always go back to feeling
Right.
stressed all the time and operating like the world is on my shoulders. Like that's totally going to be available if I want.
Yeah. Yeah. How did Mike go along with this? Like, did you
Oh my
involve him
gosh.
in this whole discussion, or did you not even bother him with this
Isn't
and tell
it
him that you're
funny?
trying this thing?
I actually don't remember. He was so sick and I was so mad at him. So it's like, they're not proud of that. But the truth is, Allie, I just was really resentful. And which is awful because he was not choosing, the poor man was not choosing this. Um, so we needed to work through a lot of that, which we have done so much work. We're just like in a beautiful place now. But I can't even remember if I involved him or not. But what was so wild is that this was around March of 2021 that I started this experiment. Memorial Day. So, end of May. Mike fell off his bike and broke his kneecap. So just as he was getting healthier, now he couldn't walk. And I was like, it was such an interesting timing to be given yet another. I do think that, I do think that the universe gives us opportunities to practice. And this was an opportunity of like, how about now? So are you going to continue your experiment, or are you going to completely like go back? And I just was like, no, I'm going to continue my experiment. And of course, I let myself feel all my feelings. I was like screaming in the closet. I was doing a level of truth telling with my husband that had not previously been explored.
Oh, I'd give
So,
anything to be a fly on the wall.
oh,
Yeah.
it
Oh,
was so
on
juicy.
one
So,
hand, the poor guy can't get a break, right? On the other hand, you're like, what are
yeah.
you doing? Why are you doing this? Right? There's probably
And
those
I was like,
feelings.
your soul is choosing this, because he was like, I'm not choosing this. And I was like, your soul is choosing this. Stop. Tell your soul to stop choosing.
Oh, I would be this. Oh, yeah. Oh, God knows what I would say. Yeah. Yeah. I
Mhm.
bet all
Yeah.
feeling all the feels. Yeah. You moved through
All of
that.
them, which is a really
Oh.
important step so one of the things that I think that we're starting to really understand, and I'm so grateful, but we have a lot of work to do, is we think, like, with this whole strength, oh wow, you're dealing with this so well, you're so strong. Or like, we apologize for crying, or we try to stuff away all our feelings. Actually, the more we let ourselves feel our feelings, the more we heal those nervous system set points, and the more we can expand our capacity to
Mm.
feel safer in a wide variety of scenarios, not just in the narrow band of experience we got handed in childhood. So
Yeah.
that experience of like screaming in the closet, having a good cry, doing whatever you need to do, and there are very specific ways to metabolize our emotions. It actually heals our neural networks when we do that.
Mm.
It's like a beautiful, incredibly productive thing to be doing, feeling your
Just like
feelings.
it feels good after a good cry, always,
Yes,
right? For an
always.
example, or a good workout
Yeah.
where you pushed yourself and you're letting
Yes.
stuff go, or running up the
Yes.
mountain or whatever. Yeah.
Those are ways that we close emotional stress loops. And there's a really interesting book called Burnout by Amelia and Emily Nagoski, two sisters. And what they posited in this book, which I think is just rings so true, is that we're not necessarily burned out because we're doing too much, although many people are. Actually, we're burned out because we haven't metabolized all of the moments of stress that have been gathering and gathering and gathering, because our society does not teach us strategies or give us support to metabolize our emotions. So we're just stuck with like 3 million open tabs of emotional stress loops that never got closed. And so we're just freaking fried.
Oh my gosh. I got to read that book.
Yeah,
That
you got to
says a
read that book.
lot. That says a lot about, because when sometimes you're like, well, I can't complain about my schedule or my life or any of this. So why do I feel this
Yeah.
weight, right? And
Mm.
this like that's not resolved, right? So,
It's
oh my
unresolved.
gosh.
It's unresolved stuff that you're just carrying around at all times.
I love my therapist, but I need to go scream or something, I think.
Yeah,
So,
you need to go scream. So the ways to work through those things are laughter, tears, movement, sound, and breath. And I also think orgasm. I added that one in.
I was thinking, yeah,
Yeah.
Nilo that.
Mhm.
Where did the thumbs up just popped up? Did you see
I
that?
am like, we got some bubbles for the big O.
So so AI was like, "Hey, yeah. So tell me about, so now how is this the last few years for you? How has this now influenced what you're sharing and teaching? And I know you have a program coming up as well.
Yes. So when I realized, and then also I started a high level mastermind with high 6, 7, and sometimes multi 7-figure women, which is obviously a community that you're very familiar with. And what was shocking to me with this group is that they still had money issues, right? Because what I found is no matter how much money you make, that doesn't mean you have a healthy relationship with money. And it certainly doesn't mean that your nervous system has capacity to actually feel abundance. But unfortunately, our culture that's so obsessed with more, 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 more tells us that the solution is making more money. But I had this subgroup of women who were making way more than your average, and it still hadn't fixed it. So I was like, we have to go further upstream. And I began to combine the nervous system healing techniques that I was practicing in my own healing and that I was learning about with women around their businesses and being able to really teach our bodies how to expand their capacity to feel safe, to feel secure, to feel free. Because at the end of the day, we think that a certain amount of money is going to make us feel a certain way. But if we can't feel that way, if we don't have the circuitry in our wiring to feel that way and to access that state of being ahead of time, no amount of money is ever going to make us feel the way we want to feel. Interestingly, though, what I found is that when we can change our nervous system thermostat so that so that it feels safer, it feels more powerful, it feels more resonant when it comes to our finances, then we actually become more magnetic to opportunities, to checks, to to resources. Because when someone, and we know this, we both do business with tons of people. When you are interacting with someone, business is relational, money is relational. The only way the economy works is that it is money exchanging hands, and it is all completely subjective. Like, when you go in to value a company, right, and set the valuation, yes, there are benchmarks and all of these things. But at the end of the day, I was just hanging out with my friend who's a venture capitalist. She has one of the largest venture firms founded by a woman in the world. And she was like, at the end of the day, it's like largely intuition. And so, yes, you can do your spreadsheets and all that stuff, but it's a feeling. And what we know is when we're doing business with people, when we're exchanging money with people, if they are coming from a place of fear and desperation and grasping, it is repulsive. So if we are coming from a place inside ourselves of fear and desperation and grasping around money, if we can't access a place of wholeness and peace and trust, we will be repelling humans and also money by virtue of the fact that money comes from humans. And so when we can learn to, so that's the work I do now is I teach a program where I help ambitious women specifically, though certainly we do have some men. They come in there and I love them, but mostly women to heal their relationship with money from a baseline of nervous system safety, which then we can layer on all the practical strategies of financial stewardship and investing and building true wealth. But those practical strategies tend to not get us the result that we want if we fundamentally are operating in a nervous system set point of
Mm.
scarcity.
I love this. And it's called Relaxed Money, right? I
It's called
love the
relaxed money.
title. And we're going to put a link right in the notes below and in this clip, or if you're watching the show, it'll be in the podcast and we'll have a special link. So, Kate, make sure to know that I referred you. And that's coming up. When does that start?
So relaxed money, the course begins in May, but I really, because, folks coming in don't know me, they don't know my work. And then I also like to give people an experience that they can just, it's very much like if I was Mrs. Fields and we're in the food court, like you can have a free cookie to experience what the cookie is like. And so I do a 3-part workshop this one's called Wide Receiver, where we are going to be preparing your nervous system and then also preparing you practically to restore your relationship with money and really come into alignment so that you can fully receive all of the wealth that already has your name on it because you're becoming a match for that. So Wide Receiver is
Okay.
coming first. It's a 3-day and it gives you like a really great feel for what the work is about, and
Oh,
you'll
and that's
get,
where the link's gonna take them, right? To that.
yeah,
Okay, great.
yeah,
So if you go to the link we have below, it's gonna take you to Wide Receiver and you'll learn more about Relax Money. So it's the one place to go for everything. So we set up for you.
exactly.
Okay, fantastic. So what's coming up next for you?
Oh, well, I'm working on a
Actually, I
book
hate that
proposal.
question. I don't know why sometimes people
Oh,
ask
I
me that and I'm
mean,
like, haven't I
I'm
done
happy to
enough?
answer it. Well, I mean, there's always something next though, isn't there, Allie? I mean, there just is. I'm working on a book proposal. Believe I'm 2-time published author. I've never written a book proposal before. So I am doing that and I'm really stretching myself and I'm working through all my resistance, but this work that I'm doing now, there's not a book about it that I'm aware of because I
Yeah.
don't know anyone else who does work with money in the nervous system. So I was like, okay, I need to get this out there to more people. So
Yeah.
that is what's next.
Fantastic. I love it. Um, and Kate, I know you're part of many circles. You're very well connected. You know, you have tons of friends who are very accomplished and in different, places, tons of resources. Why did you decide to become part of the trust with us? And why do you decide to
Yeah.
stay?
Yeah. So one of the things, I mean, I really love the trust because of the generosity in the room, which by the way is not different than other spaces I've been in. I've been in a million spaces with women business owners where there's generosity, but never where somebody else is organizing it and where people show up because they've made an investment. Like I've run masterminds, but I have to do all the work for those. And so I love that the trust is like I get masterminding in it. Like there's lots of opportunity for that. Um, but I also love that it's not exactly that. And I really love the combination of content, connection, the sharing what's working. I've just gotten the generosity. Like last meeting, I had shared at one of our roundtables about my upcoming launch, and one of the members just pulled me aside on the way to the bathroom, and she was like, "Here's what you should do. You should do X, Y, and Z." But she helped me just like to rework my pricing strategy and like really help me see it in a new way. It took 5 minutes, and honestly, it was worth the whole trip. So just like being in a group where the fundamental philosophy is generosity, we're here to lift each other up. We're all opening up our resources, our suggestions, our strategy. There's zero competition and just a feeling of like there's more than enough for everyone and let me help you. Like it's really phenomenal and I just get great ideas and I get inspired and I love helping. Like anything I've learned the hard way, I would love for another woman to not need to learn the hard way. Like that's the greatest gift I could possibly have. And it makes it feel worth it that I might have agonized over something that I could pass it along in an easily wrapped up
Yeah.
box to someone
Oh,
else, which is, I mean, that's
I love
honestly
it.
why I teach my programs.
Right. No, I love hearing that. And I hear that from many of the members, they said, so one of them said, I've never been in a room with such powerful women who there's not a lot of ego. There's a lot of just this
Almost basically none.
sharing. Yeah. There used to be, they're maybe gone now. It's one.
There's, like, such a sense of humility. It's such a beautiful sense of humility, but also
Totally.
no problem celebrating themselves, which is really
No.
important. So,
And I
like,
joke
that
because we always,
balance.
there's different personalities and characters, so I always
Mhm.
like razz some of the members, but everyone, even if there is a little ego, there is a place of generosity. There is
Yes,
sharing. They're happy to help each other. And I've heard it's feels like a safe space, which is not
very much so.
typical among women in power, at least historically, right? It's new for us to like trust
100%.
the trust. That's why I love that. When I first had that idea for the name, I walked by a sign actually. I remember this was in 2017. I just did my first iconic workshop. It was a little workshop. That first one, I did it at the Ritz in Marina Del Rey. And I was walking in Malibu the day after, just kind of decompressing. And there was a sign, it was a financial firm and said something trust, but it was in like this gold plaque type,
Mm,
thing. And I was like, ooh, trust. I'm like,
yeah,
that's what these women need now. I'm like, they're coached out, they're whacked out, like they're all isolated and still not finding a place at the level they're at to come together regularly with a
yeah.
group that they really trust. And
Yeah,
so
that you really
thank
trust,
you.
and there's a conversation there are just conversations you can only have with women who have achieved a certain level in their business. You just can't have them everywhere, and it's
Yeah.
such a rare thing.
I love that. So our summer invitation call is coming up. If you're listening to this, watching it, please go to jointhetrust.org. If you'd like to finally learn more, even if you're just trust curious, I say come join us. Okay, jointhetrust.org. I'm going to walk you through everything the trust is, everything we have to offer, all we have coming up for the next year or two. We've got it all laid out. Jointhetrust.org. And then we'll put the link below also for Kate's the wide receiver. I love that. That just means like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to take this all in. That's probably right there waiting for you, but we haven't really locked into receiving yet. We'll put the link under there, and that's going to also lead to her relaxed money. I love the linking money in the nervous system. You shared some gems today. Kate, what is the reward in all this for you?
So when I was growing up, both my parents are doctors. They worked really hard. I'm so grateful, for the life they were able to create for us. And I also made a decision really early on that I wanted to run my own business so that I could be really present with my kids. And that's why I started in direct selling early on. And it's still my reason for running a business. The fact that I can just like be at all of my kids' shows and volunteer in their classroom and come home at 4:30 in the afternoon and really be with them. It's the biggest
Mm,
gift, and that is the reward for me, is just the ability to show up for my girls and not only show up for them, but really show up for me. Like, I genuinely enjoy, especially at this phase of parenting, I enjoy my kids so much, and being with them fills me up more and more the older they get. And I'm just so grateful. Like, that's the reward, the freedom, the ability to take them places, the ability to do stuff with them. It's the best.
I love that. And it just gets better. Mine are turning
Yeah.
11 in May. And the conversations you start having and
Mm.
seeing how they really learn how the world is shaped through us. And
Yep.
even though mine, I homeschooled for a while, but now they're at a local school that we love. But I want to still be one of the biggest influences in their life. And to do that, you have to have time to spend with them. And it's sad a lot of parents don't have that time. And that's where I think the kids kind of get lost in culture and kind of the falseness of society. And like, but when you get to spend so much quality time with your kids, it's
Mhm.
amazing to see who they become. And I know that's happening with your girls as well. And I can't wait to come down to Miami and be on your show. Thank you for the
Yes,
invitation. I've
I
got to get down
can't
there.
wait.
You
Yes,
take it
please
to a
come.
whole new level. You got the studio and that must just be so fun to put
It's
all
really fun.
a bit of theater into it, right? And what's the set going to look like and how is it angled and
It's
what am I
a
going to wear?
theater.
And yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, not in a showy way, but in
Well,
just it adds a whole other element to it.
I am a performer at heart. So, that's accurate.
Yeah, yeah, a bit
Mhm.
more of a, just I just have to change my top and here we are. So
So it's great to see you, Kate. Everyone will put the links below for everything Kate has going on. And also remember, jointhetrust.org to join me for the next summer invitation call. You could be with us in Newport Beach in June. And thank you. Thanks for joining us, Kate.
Thank you.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Subscribe now to the Reward Podcast to be sure to not miss an episode. And don't forget to visit jointhetrust.org to learn more about our modern community for forward-thinking 7- and 8-figure women entrepreneurs. You can learn more, apply to join us, or refer another woman you know who is over the $1 million mark and is ready for a different type of women's network. We have events coming up both live and online that are truly creating new possibilities for female leaders. That's jointhetrust.org. See you there.